Hello, my butterflies, and welcome back to One Hook, Two Hands. I am Sarah, the creator of One Hook, Two Hands, and I'm excited to take this moment and just kind of explain a little bit about my chosen channel name, as well as my store that I have, and tell you a little bit more about the meaning behind it. So I know I kind of alluded to it in my intro video, which again I will probably redo at some point, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. So One Hook, Two Hands started because I started doing some local crafting fairs, and you know, when you go to these things they ask what's your name, and I thought about it, and honestly I really like the idea of including, you know, this idea that it's simple. You don't need a lot. It doesn't take a lot to be and do what we do. Yes, you can get fancy. Yes, you can spend however much you want to on yarn. I get it. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, all we really need is a trusty crochet hook, a bit of yarn, and it doesn't matter what you spend on that yarn, and our own two hands, and we can do whatever we want to do. So it's really is about just empowering people to pick up a crochet hook. It's about empowering people to try something new, to move forward and be creative and not be stuck in this mentality, oh, I don't have this so I can't do that kind of thing, or I don't know how to do this so I can't do that. Everybody has the chance with crochet. We're on an even playing field. Anybody and everybody can pick this up and turn it into something different and crazy and wild and wacky, and I love that. I love seeing what other creators are doing, and I love seeing what other people bring to the table and just want to share with each other. And that's the thing I love about it. The thing I love about us is we love to share. We're like, oh, have you seen this? Or, oh, I've got this new idea for this. And really, I just like the idea of just that camaraderie that comes around with like a crochet circle, whether that's online or in person, and just the stories and the telling and the community that comes with crocheting. And I felt like that really embodied it. But another part of my logo is the fact that the two hands look like butterfly wings on my crochet hook. If you see it, it's like crochet hook with two hands kind of up like this. And the reason I wanted it to be butterflies, or to remind me of butterflies, is throughout every hard season of my life, and I know a lot of people have different opinions and views on faith, I kind of stand by what my dad says about it. We believe in grace and truth, which essentially means we believe in the truth, but we aren't angry about it. And, you know, I feel like that's a really good way of explaining it at the end of the day. And, but I fully believe that as I was saying, I fully believe that, I fully believe in God. I fully believe in Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And I believe that, you know, every piece about it is true. Again, the best way I can describe my faith is I believe I believe the Bible goes into any culture, removes the sin, keeps the culture, and that we are all one family, and that we should be striving towards unity and all of those things, which is why I guess even in the crafting community, I strive for unity. But again, like I said, that's what I believe, and I'm not mad about it. But for me, out of that, butterflies became just a symbol of hope for a couple of reasons. One, butterflies, when they have to go through this process where they go into a cocoon and they don't quite know what they're doing, but they know that they're going to have to basically become sludge and like go through this refining process. And then they're gonna have to work really hard to break out of their shell of the expectations and the things of what they used to be thought of. And then they are going to, but because if they don't work hard and break through, then their wings aren't strong enough for their purpose going forward. They're not going to be able to carry their own body weight on their wings if they don't fight their way through their cocoon themselves. And so they're just a symbol of strength and hope for me. And hope because I'm sure some of you know the Southern tradition about if you see a cardinal after someone has passed, it's your loved one visiting you, that kind of thing. Well, my mom has always found solace and peace in God bringing birds to her in many different ways. And just seeing a bird in its flight and how it's been so transformational for her. But for me, it's always been butterflies. Just the way that they're delicate, but at the same time, it takes an immense amount of strength to go through what they go through, to come out of the other side, to be this beautiful thing, and to show strength while seemingly being this very delicate thing. And one of the things I love about it the most is I have climbed mountains everywhere on multiple different continents and multiple different countries. And at the end of the day, I don't care how high you hike. I don't care how far you go. There's always a butterfly that's beating you to wherever you're going. And so, and to me, they are the real persistent animals, even though I know people like, but they die so quickly. I'm like, y'all, they are persistence personified because they continue and continue and continue on their journey all along the way. There's just so many interesting things about them. But for me, really in seasons of grief and seasons of pain and seasons of just struggle, like I think about, I'm going to cry, but I am going to share this. So about 1.5 years ago, when we were 3 years into the journey of not knowing what was going on with me and going through my chronic illness, we all thought we had found what that illness was. We thought it was autoimmune encephalitis. Turns out maybe, but not quite, because I apparently didn't have full-blown. And I say that because our I didn't test positive in my cerebral spinal fluid, but I still had elevated levels of things, and I was still testing positive for the antibodies. So again, it kind of became this mashup. But I lived for about 6 months with this diagnosis. But shortly after, I got the test back, but before I had had a chance to talk to the doctor, because I got the test back on Friday, I had to go see the doctor on Monday. And I remember there's a lot of information that they give you on the test when you get the diagnosis of autoimmune encephalitis, especially the GABA-BR variant. The test literally says this is associated with limbic encephalitis, which causes seizures. It's a byproduct sometimes of small cell lung cancer, which I have had 2 family members for sure die of, probably 4 total. And I just say that because of the different people kind of hiding their illnesses and not really being forthright at the end. So for sure 2, possibly 4 close family members die of lung cancer. And then also just the side effects it causes, the brain fog, the confusion, the types of brain pain that it causes. And I've been experiencing several different variants, so it seemed very plausible that this diagnosis was legit, but then couldn't quite get the doctors to do what they needed and all that. But that was later. But on the weekend in between the 6-month journey, that was just frustrating and exhausting and ridiculously hard. But in that weekend, I knew I needed to get away. I knew I needed to get up and kind of go into my cave, or as I like to say, go up on the mountains and just meet with God And though physically I couldn't go hike like I would have loved to, because at that point the exercise fatigue was great. Y'all, I ended up just kind of going as far as I could and stopping, and as certain verses were hitting me, I would stop and write them down and journal them along the way, or certain songs would come to mind and I would write down the title, or just certain thoughts of, like, one of them that I'll share is, when I look up my eyes up to the hills, where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of the heaven and the earth. And it's this idea of, like, if you looked up to the hills, you were looking for trouble. You were looking to see where people were coming down from, or trying to sneak down from. But the thought that kept running through my head is, when you look up to the hills and you look at the tops, and if you've ever been in the Northeast Tennessee mountains, you can see it pretty well. But when you look up towards the top little ridges of the mountains, when you're already kind of on the mountain, getting ready to hike, oftentimes it's not that much further that you have to go to just lift your eyes up and see the one who is bigger than all of it, right? To see your creator, to understand that he is bigger than even the hills that were supposedly scary in that circumstance and in that day. And which made me think more about David, because David was the writer of that psalm and a writer of Psalms, and it was kind of this reminder of that, like, David didn't say he wasn't afraid. He just trusted his God, who is bigger than the circumstance. And for me, that looks like, and I was reminded of him going out and picking up the 5 stones, 1 for Goliath and 4 for the others who were coming against Israel. He went out and picked 5 stones, but why did he pick 5? Well, there was Goliath, who he was going to face, but then Goliath had 4 brothers, and don't ask me their names because brain fog and all that. I can't remember that off the top of my head, but he had 4 brothers, and so it was one of those, like, I trust God, which is why each one gets 1 stone, but at the end of the day, my God is bigger than all of them, but he was also prepared for it. And so that day, as I was hiking up in this little area, I went out and picked up 3 stones for kind of my 3 big fears. One of them was, this illness itself. Because the illness itself is scary, because it can actually kill you if it has a big strike all at once. 2, there was the seizures. I had 2 episodes. I had 1 episode at that point. I ended up having 2 by the time I ended up in the hospital in August of 2024. And I would go on to have a couple more since then of full body spasming, where it looked like a seizure, I just didn't go out. And just the idea of seizures, and then losing my freedom to drive, losing my freedom to do life, all of these things. And then the 3rd, which was cancer, and the cancer scared me the biggest, because cancer runs in the family, especially this type of cancer. And so it was scary to think at the age of 37, now 38, I'd be facing that. And so it was just this weekend of, like, I went up and picked up my stones, and I wish I had it present right here, but I crocheted a little pouch for my stones, and I call it my fighting pouch, and I take it with me when I go into big, hard conversations at doctor's offices. I take it when I travel to Duke. I take it with me when I travel. It's just that reminder of, like, the giants are gonna fall. They're going to fall. Because my God is bigger than the boogeyman, essentially. And so, but all along the way that day, y'all would have thought I was a Disney princess. it just felt like God had brought all of these butterflies, because this was a trail, and especially a height on a trail that didn't usually have this many butterflies. Maybe a little higher up, maybe a little lower, or on one of the other sides. But where I was walking usually doesn't have this many butterflies. And I say this as somebody who up until that point walked that trail almost every week, if not every other week. And not only were there butterflies, but they were landing on me. They weren't landing on anybody else. They were landing on me. They were circling me almost. Is the only way I know how to explain it. And they would kind of stop with me when I stopped. And it was just this moment of peace that I felt like was God given in the moment, of just reassurance of like, I'm here, and you're gonna get through this. And so that's just one instance of where God has used butterflies to just remind me of I am here and I am present, but not in a loud. I love that story of Elijah where it's, he's hiding in the cave and he's like, is God in the thunder? Is God in the lightning? Is God in this massive firestorm cloud that comes by? And he's like, no. It was after all of that, and the soft, still wind, where this small whisper was happening. That was where God was. And I just love that imagery, and it felt like that day. And I had such a sense of peace coming off that mountain, of just having met with God and having reassurance and peace. And so left with a lot of hope, despite what the diagnosis was, and despite what my current diagnosis is. Because honestly, this is my second antibody tested positive that has something to do with the neurons that they're not quite sure, and it's rare enough, and there's not enough research done to it. They sort of know it's related, but they don't know how, and they don't know why, and there's just a lot of don't knows. And even with this one, there is an association with lung cancer again. And I'm like, okay. So both of these are sort of related, and both of them, guys, I just don't know what's going on with that, with my health. But at the end of the day, I trust God. And it comes back to my theme verse throughout all of it, which is, when I am afraid, I shall put my trust in you. I held on to that verse. It's Psalm 56. Verses 3 and 4, like I hold tight to it, because that's what's gotten me through and what's anchored me all along the way. And again, all that to come back to, butterflies are the representation of that for me. Like I said, to me, they're the great perseverance animals, because again, they may never go higher than 2 or 3 feet, but they always are just following wherever the ground is. And if there's ground to follow, they will go up it into extreme heights or to the deepest depths. They're there. And the way that God has used butterflies in my life to represent hope, especially during this season of my life, has been absolutely amazing. And I hold tight to it. And so for me, it's a representation of hope. And whether you believe in or you don't, I want all of you to have hope. Whether that's with whatever spoony condition you're dealing with, whether that's hope in a situation at work, or hope in a situation at home, or hope in a situation that seems hopeless. I want you to find hope. And I hope my channel can be a place where you feel comfortable, where you can share what's going on as we get to know each other, hopefully with live soon. I'm still a few short for that, so like and subscribe to help me be able to actually meet y'all a little bit more, and also to just bring us together. And I hope that these butterflies you'll start seeing them as that too. And I just hope you have a extremely peaceful day, and I thank you for listening to my story about One Hook, Two Hands and how we got here. Love y'all. Bye.